The time is 11:20. You're tuned into the mid-morning talk with me, Fazila Isaac. We are joined by Professor Mehreen Mia, who's a professor in humanities, education, and humanitarianism. She's a global goodwill ambassador, and she's the president of Success World One Academy SA. That's among many, many other accolades that she has under her belt. Assalamu alaikum, Professor.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sister Fazila. Lovely to hear you and be with you.
Absolutely. Jazakallah so much for taking the time to join us today.
I mean, it's only a pleasure and an honor to always be with Salam Media.
Alhamdulillah. I wanted to actually start on, I know we do have a topic of discussion for today, but I want us to actually delve into the person behind all of these expertise. So tell us a bit about yourself, your background, growing up, how was it? Tell us a bit about yourself. Give us some insight into you.
Alhamdulillah, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Well, firstly, I'm an only child. So growing up for me was all about mom and dad, no siblings. And as such, I became the one wanted to always be best at everything, whether it was studying, whether it was how to be, etc., etc. So a downfall of that as you're growing up, is always that you try to be a people pleaser. So wanting to always please your parents, because alhamdulillah, that's always a blessing. But wanting to try to always please everybody else is never working. So I learned the hard way that to try and make sure people are always happy with you is never what Allah wishes for you. So that's the number one I think you can take away from my childhood. But in my
Hmm.
childhood, I also learned that your passion develops in your childhood, and that passion can actually lead to your success as you grow up. Because even though I had started with, working after tertiary studies, etc., I eventually was not feeling very satisfied with any work that I was doing. And one day I did some introspection and I tried to find which was my happiest moment while I was studying or growing up or wherever, try and find what was my happiest place. And I remembered that I gave a lecture, my first lecture actually, to women and to girl children in Cape Town when I was age 13. That was thanks to a very close family friend on Muhajir. And at that point was when I was at my best. And I figured, you know what, let me delve into doing a little bit of this again. And alhamdulillah, it really progressed from there. A lot of my work obviously stems from myself. So as much as there's the accolades, yes, as much as there's the studying and certificates behind me, I feel Allah grants you this, and Allah, it's all from Allah and His Rahmah, alhamdulillah, so I'm blessed with it. But nothing comes from the certificate if they just sit on a wall. It's all about the worth of the certificate is actually based on what you do with them for our ummah. That's what I believe.
Hmm.
That's why I call myself a lifelong learner, so to speak. So I did have many a mishap in my life, many, many difficulties, many pains, many anguishes. None of us are humanely perfect, but that too is all just learning curves. You know, in every phase of adversity, you have an opportunity to grow you. This is what I've learned. This is what I teach. The backfall for lots of the things is always the stigma from society. There's always the sisters that try to throw you down, etc. But the whole idea for you is to remember that you are here, you are your gift unto yourself, you are Allah's gift to yourself and your ummah, and whomever is your children or whomever else is around you that you love. And you need to run your race, regardless of the people around you. So you just need to keep going, alhamdulillah. And this is what I've been trying to do, inshallah, for the best and pleasure of Allah first, and then, of course, to be the best that I can be for the rest of my journey, inshallah.
Subhanallah. And tell me what drives you, to be so actively involved in so many organizations that you've committed to. I know you do a lot of work locally and internationally as well. What is the driving force behind this for you?
I think it would be to actually see the changes that need to be made, not just talk about it. There are so many organizations and people that voice um, these so-called notions and visions and missions that we want to make changes for people's lives. We want to do things for people, but to be actively involved to see and make that change is a different ballgame, and that's where I come from. I do not wish, and I truly believe the wrongs in my life which I turn to make right, the difficulties I faced which turned out to be my strengths instead of weaknesses. These are things that I endured. So as much as I studied anything, textbook material is not what I teach in a workshop. Textbook material is there because I had to study it to get to where I needed to. But the textbook is not what I give off my in from when I'm giving you a lecture or consulting with you or your workshops, etc. I am giving you what is my life. And that is what I try and teach everyone across the globe. Your life is your lesson because your life is your journey. And if you embrace the difficulties, if you embrace the pain, if you embrace the grief, if you embrace you, you will be able to actually just grow. So my reason for trying to do as much as I do, especially via education and psychology, is I truly believe to educate yourself to the maximum is going to help your psyche to become the best version of you. So it marries into each other all the time. And you need to really, every change that we wish to see, whether it's a humanitarian change, whether it's a psychological change, whatever we wish to have financially, etc., it all begins with a person, with an individual, and with that individuality. And when we grasp that concept well, we will know that it has to it has to begin from a person. So it starts with you, the listener. If you wish to change things around you, start first with changing you. Analyze you. And that's where I really wish to see the change. That's why I try and do as much as I can to do that. I want to try and make my lessons in my life become vocal. Um, and make people see that if you resonate with my wrongs, then I'm showing you that it can be turned into a right. Because I am the living example that I usually have to teach. We learn this somewhat. What is sunnah? When we're saying try and follow sunnah, what is sunnah? Sunnah is following someone. I'm not anything remotely as to what our Prophet Muhammad or his wives or his children. None of it. We can't. We're not even a dust particle of what they were. But we can try. And what is sunnah? Sunnah is leading by example. So this is what I wish to do, inshallah. So lots of people knock me down because I talk openly about a rebellious streak I had. I talk openly about the wrongs that happened in my life. But that's because my wrongs I embrace because my wrongs made me who I am today. So yeah, alhamdulillah, I think I'm really pushed to do whatever I do because of my wrongs, and I don't wish to see the repeat in people's lives, and I want to make that change for people.
I'm glad that this all of this, your purpose comes from a lot of introspection. So that is absolutely beautiful, because once you know and understand yourself, then you are able to assist the next person who needs the exact same assistance from you. So that is absolutely beautiful. I know you are in education. Tell us about your role in that specific industry.
Well, education for me is key. Fazila, I think you will also agree. Whether it's from a child who's going to a preschool, whether you're an adult, whether you're an elder, your learning never stops. And that's one thing we always need to understand. Knowledge is key for you to be able to make anything better for yourself. You cannot sit back and expect the next person to always make things better for you. That is not what Allah has yet taught us. Allah taught us that there are measures that I have given you, there are gifts I have given you. You need to actually work towards gaining extra or gaining and doing. So education became my secondary because initially I started off with studying law and I moved into the phase of psychology because of what I had endured. And I figured, you know what, my angle of psychology and what happens out there is very much aligned. And I needed to find that balance between your mind, your heart, your body, and your spirit. And I did find that. I found it within myself. Then I thought to myself, Mehreen, you're only doing all of this purely because you have the educational capability. And I thought to myself, are there barriers to this? Does anybody actually have a barrier to educate themselves? There are barriers. There are many barriers, and those barriers are mostly created from outside a person, though. Whether it's financially constrained, whether you have a barrier of how to get to a school, whether you have a barrier of your age and you feel like I'm an elder adult now, I don't need to learn anything. Except these barriers are created from outside of you. And we need to break down those barriers because we need to understand there are many, many issues happening around us here right now, globally. If you don't educate yourself about what's happening around the globe, what's happening with you and within you, you're not going to be able to do anything better for you. So one of my key structures is as president of Successful One Academy, we try and aim to teach and to grow every age bracket, every culture, no matter who you are, where you come from. We're not looking at your financial status, etc. And my goal is to do the life coaching therapy through the actual educational system here. So if you have to go to South African education as a system, It has in it, for example, LO, life orientation, which we know is taught every school. Sadly, though, it doesn't seem to help our children when they have to leave school. It's not helping our kids as they're getting into teenagehood. We're waiting for our children to have to endure difficulties in adult life when then they have to go for this therapy and that therapy, and then we wonder what's happening with their lives and it's that's so horrible about our education and about our children. I'm saying we need to actually attack our kids in the syllabus as from day one. The things that can help them as they grow into adulthood. They don't need to wait for the pain. They don't need to have to wait to endure. They have to be trained that if this happens, then these are your options. We can actually do them beforehand as opposed to like we have to endure, get older and get through it and then have to figure it out for ourselves. So through Successful One Academy, and then of course the RIU, where I'm the honorary professor in education. We try to educate via webinars, by going out to workshops, by going into schools. And the other thing that for me is important is our teachers. Our teachers are really taken for granted. Our teachers are not really given as much acknowledgement as they need to be given. And our parents seem to be lacking in their responsibilities as teachers to their kids, because we need to understand you as a parent, you are the first primary teacher, not the teacher at the school necessarily. So when your kid is not doing very well at school, don't be first to go and fight with the teacher. Find out first what's going wrong with your child. So education is really key, and that's why I'm really passionate about trying to make the change with the educational system and with how we educate ourselves in any age group and any culture, any traditional value, whatever. There's no color. We just need to really educate ourselves to keep going and so.
I mean, I love your passion when it comes to education. It's also very close to my heart, and it's so important that every small difference that we make, in the industry is actually something that is so it's enormous, because the moment you make a difference in the life of one child, that can actually have a whole rollover effect and create bigger opportunities and a better country as a whole. I think people underestimate what giving one child a good quality education actually means when it comes to a bigger picture. Which people should actually start taking into consideration. Professor, we're just going to take a quick short ad break. When we come back, we'll continue with this. Stay tuned.
Sure.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
It's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil, triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying, or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked, which charity is best? He replied, a drink of water. Africa. Every day, 2 billion people wake up and have no access to water and sanitation. Sponsor a water well for 14,800 rand, a borehole in Afghanistan for 49,500 rand, or a borehole in Africa for 55,000 rand with Africa Muslim Agency. Give water as a means of sadaqah jariyah today. Call AMA on 011 834 8685 or donate online. Africa Muslims Agency, commemorating 35 years of empowering, educating, inspiring.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042 203 1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Injuran Boys College is an independent boarding and day school situated on the N1 highway in Polokwane in a picture and tranquil farm-style setting. We encourage intellectual and emotional development through a holistic learning environment. We follow the NCS CAPS curriculum and house boys from grade 5 to 11. We also have a boarding facilities. Engineering College is a safe haven and a home away from home. We focus on building morals, ethics, and grooming our boys to become responsible citizens. We offer the opportunity to be awarded 75% sponsorship of boarding fees as well as discounts. It is registered with the Department of Education and Omalusi accredited. Our other schools include girls boarding school in Zaneni and a boys school in Palawura. For more information, contact us on 082-491-4043 or 078-452-6264. Follow us on Facebook or email us on polokwane@engineeringcolleges.co.za.
Devastating floods in Pakistan have washed away villages, claimed the lives of more than 1,000 people, damaged nearly 1 million homes, and left over 33 million people in desperate need of help. As the catastrophe unfolds, Islamic Relief is on the ground, reaching people with life-saving aid. Our team are working tirelessly to deliver food and shelter. Your support is urgently needed now to help save more lives. Donate now to Islamic Relief.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media.
The time is 11:36. You're tuned into the mid-morning talk with me, Fazila Isaac, on Salam Media. We are joined by the inspiring Professor Mehreen Mia, who is taking us through her background in all of these different industries. We just spoke about education. Tell us also a bit about you being the Goodwill Ambassador, the Global Goodwill Ambassador. Tell us about this. And the Peace Ambassador, actually.
Sure. Just to say something quickly about the education system. One of the problems I find, especially in our country, is the public versus private sector, and that creates barriers in our children's mindset already. And you must understand, these kids are all going to become involved in one space, and they all get to university. What happens to them then? When you're in the private sector, our kids seem to have this mindset that I am better than the next, yet you're all in the same grade. So we need to really attack this from a very, democratic, if I could use the word, manner. And you need to really start to address mindsets of our kids so they don't start to create barriers between themselves, because we're actually doing it by what we do.
So how can we do this?
Well, the first thing is to actually go to whoever created up our policies. We have the private sector is, why do you want to send your child to a private school? Why do you want to send your child to a public school? Many parents would say to you, look, I need to send my child to a public school because I don't have money and I can't afford private sector. We also need to analyze what exactly is the difference between the private sector education and the public sector education. They're all qualifying the same matric certificate. They're all going to the same tertiary education. So what exactly is the difference in the schooling itself, other than the financial status between the both? That in itself creates the barrier in the mindset of the child. I am more elite than you. I am more superior than you because I came from this college or this, etc., etc. So we need to attack it from where it begins, and that is these questions. Why would you send your child there? Because at the end of the day, these private versus public sectors exist because our children are there. Places these children there? The parents. Why would a parent do it? So you need to go to the source of it and try and figure out what exactly is it and why. What are the differences between these two sectors? Which one is favored as the most? Because ultimately my dream would be to see that every single child gets quality education, as we find in all these private colleges, but for free. Inshallah, for free, because that is something that is a basic right of our children. And our parents are so engrossed in how to find fees to pay for our children. How do I find childcare opportunities? How do I find proper childcare that's not going to cost me an arm and a leg? Everything is the cost of a fund or money. So parents are so engrossed in how to make their ends meet and make that money available to pay these school fees, to pay, etc., that they forget how to be the parent to the child. And these are things that, they're little points, but they require much work. They require a lot of effort, but we can talk about that over and over and over. But this is what I'm really passionate about. Is we really need to work at this because we're finding these in our kids. Our kids are starting to interact with other children when we get to university levels, etc. When you go out into the working world, you can't have a mindset of I'm better than you when you're in the working world. You're never going to succeed there. But where does it start? It all starts somewhere. So we need to find the source of where it begins.
So, that takes me now to our next topic, which comes to mothers as a whole. All right. I know it would come from the parent in actually instilling this into our children, whether the certain mindset children have, how children go about treating others, what they think of themselves, the way they carry themselves out in public, things like that, in relation to this education system that we're speaking of. So it brings me to that of mothers who are working on a full-time basis and those who are stay-at-home moms. Of course, there's advantages and disadvantages to both. Let us talk a bit about that, and their role in the children's life. Let's start with stay-at-home moms because obviously they have more interaction with their kids. But is there such a vast difference with their interaction with their kids and what they can teach their kids in terms of what we just spoke about compared to one who is actually a full-time mom?
Well, yes, there is a very big difference. I'll explain quickly. But just before that, you did ask me a question. So, Marf, I didn't answer you about the Global Goodwill Ambassadorship. That
Oh,
came to
yes,
me.
yes.
That was during the COVID-19 lockdown, actually. That's because I was a frontline worker then, and I went into various locations to try and feed and help, etc., etc. And I had no idea that actually, remember that my humanitarian efforts and my work has never only begun now. I started doing it with my grandfather when I was growing up. So it started at the age of 5 and continued to different areas, different places throughout the country. But eventually, I learned from him how to touch people's lives. He would walk into a hospital and greet an absolute stranger and make them laugh, and I'd walk away with him. Of course, I wouldn't be in the hospital with him, but I'd wait for him, and he'd come out and I'd say, "Who is that you went to see?" And he'd say, "I don't know." And I'd be like, "So you just randomly picked somebody to go to visit?" And he'd be like, "Yes." I said, "But you made him laugh," because I'll be sitting outside in the foyer and I'd be watching him. I said, "Yes, but he has nobody that comes to visit him." And I heard about that, so I figured somebody needs to give him that essence because this is what we learn as Muslims. So I learned from him these small little things of humanitarian acts. And I just carried on doing, what he was doing and carried on the legacy of the humanitarian ethics. So through COVID, I had done this, and eventually I didn't realize that people in the USA were also knowing what I was doing. I didn't know it was being acknowledged as far as that. So when I got to say that I'm going to be awarded this, I was truly shocked but truly blessed by Allah because I realized, at the time it was a very difficult emotional time for me. COVID in itself taught a lot of emotional difficulties. Businesses were taking a dive. But I gave a lot of gratitude to the sponsors and donors I had at the time because it wasn't a money collection drive. It was always when I went to them and said, "Look, I want to go to feed 500 people. This is what I need." So they give me the ingredients, etc., etc. Or I go to feed 1,500 people with the bread and etc. So I just had people to donate to me what I needed. And so I gave thanks for them. And it was really, that's what it was about. It was just the goodwill that I was doing to people or for people. I didn't realize the impact it was making and that these people were actually nominating me in these different areas. So it was acknowledged. And I just believe that as much as it's a certificate from the foundation, I truly believe it's more Allah recognizing and saying to you, "Mehreen, you're doing what is right, just keep going." So that's where that stems from, alhamdulillah.
100%. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. So just to answer you about the moms, yes, there is a difference between the both. And I'll speak firstly, like I always say, I speak from myself as a learning example. When I used to work, before I started up my own things, I obviously had a job. I worked for someone. I had my daughter as a single mother. And one of the things I can tell you firsthand is that the only reason I was as productive as I was in my job and at peace with my job, working for someone else and then coming home, so I was working, but still a mom. Well, purely because I knew my baby was taken care of very well at home with my mom. So that was my peace of mind, that I don't need to stress about where is my child, how is my child. Of course, she was, even though she's with my mom, I will still miss her. I want to know how she is, so I just phone mom. But when your child is in a daycare facility, you don't have much peace of mind. So your productivity level in your working stream is going to drop just a little bit. So I always give blessings that I had my mother for all of that. Not everyone is as fortunate to have had that because my child's basics were obviously very important. Every child has the basics. They grow, they're developing. Their mind is growing. Their personalities are developing. You in your working space are missing on a few of these aspects of your child. The little things about what you would notice if you're at home, whether your child actually likes a specific vegetable or not, whether your child is doing this, so and you'll have to hear it then from someone else. Listening to it from my mom about my child somehow softened the blow, as opposed to if I have to listen to it from just a teacher or a childcare person who's looking after my child for the time. Another X factor for the two spaces is that when your child is in a daycare, remember you are paying. So you have to focus on making sure that you have the fees available to make sure that is getting paid. Because if you don't have to pay it and you don't have the alternative or plan B to send somebody, for your child to go to someone to be taken care of, what you're going to do. So your focus is so much on having to make sure that the money is there, but stuff has to be paid, especially if you are single and don't have somebody supporting them. Whilst on the other hand, knowing that there's your mom, you are going to contribute to the home you're living in, you're going to contribute to your mom, but it's not a set design that if you don't pay, I'm not looking after the child. No mother's going to do that to their child who has a child. So yes, this is just a very small difference that I'm hinting to you, but that's because these are differences in the mindset of a working mom versus a stay-at-home mom. The disadvantage of the stay-at-home mom would be that I'm at home, especially if you're a mom who has worked, who's had the independence earning your income, and now all of a sudden you decided to stay home with your child. You obviously have this idea and you acknowledge what it feels like to be independent with your income. You know what it feels like to be in the working space, the working corporate world. Now you are home with the restrictions of not having that income, but you do have 100% capability of having to be in control of your home. You're 100% in control of your children, of yourself. So that is the bonus, although you have lost the source of income. So you have to wait up for yourself and ask yourself, where am I right now? If I'm a stay-at-home mom, what are my pros and cons? If I'm a working mother, what are my pros and cons? But remember something, Sister Fazila, between these both aspects, I just mentioned one common word. Working mom, stay-at-home mom. In both instances, you are still a mom. So you have got to understand, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, yes, He's given you the work, or He's given you the stay-at-home purpose. But at the end of the day, He's still given you one thing, and that is that you are a mom. Take that into cognizance. That has to remain your priority. I am still a mother. Above all else, I might be working or I might be at home. But above all else, I'm a mother. As the mother, what decisions do I need to take? What is it that is best and going to please Allah in me, in my role as a mother? And how do I look after my child? So this is key for me.
And what do you think? Like you said, you are lucky that you did have your mother available for you to assist you. But many women are faced with this difficult decision. Do I stay at home, especially those who have the support of, husbands and family members and stuff like that, right? The balance is created in that they do have that choice. Then there's other moms who don't have the choice. They have to obviously go out and work, etc. But let's just take the woman who does have a choice. What would drive a woman's decision when making this actual decision? Do I be a stay-at-home mom, or do I actually go to work? But we're just going to take a quick short ad break, and when we come back, we'll speak on that. Stay tuned.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Online schooling? Why not? Kurtuba Online Academy is the leading global online Islamic school from grade R to matric, offering South African caps and international syllabus. And it doesn't stop there. We also offer online madrasa for every grade. For more information, visit www.kurtubaonline.co.za. Kurtuba Online Academy, the leading global online Islamic school.
Decades of war, devastating drought, and economic collapse have pushed the Afghan people to the edge of survival. 24 million need life-saving aid, and 5 million children are knocking on famine's door. The world cannot just watch as this terrible crisis unfolds. With your support, the Al-Imdad Foundation is delivering emergency relief to the Afghan people. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
With so many investment options today, it's only natural that you might feel a little confused which route to take. Should I buy shares or should I invest in gold bullion? Randery Jewelers now brings you the Zahab coin, an alternative to the Kruger Rand. The Zahab coin, a solid wealth protector in its purest form of 24-karat gold, is the safest way to protect your wealth. So don't just sit there and watch your paper money depreciate. Change to gold. Call Randery Jewelers now at 031 202 4701 or visit www.rjcoin.co.za, situated at 151 Essenwood Road, Musgrave, Durban. Randery Jewelers, the family name you can trust.
Approximately 785 million people in this world do not have access to safe, clean water. In developing countries, around 80% of all illnesses are due to contaminated water and poor sanitation. Don't let dirty water end a life. Build a water well in Bangladesh, Malawi, Nepal, Zimbabwe, or here at home in South Africa. Donate to Penny Appeal's Thirst Relief Project to bring safe, clean water to communities around the world. www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 1100 573. Penny Appeal. Small change, big difference.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
The time is 11:52. You're tuned into the mid-morning talk with me, Fazila Isaac, on Salam Media. Now we are being graced by the expertise of Professor Mehreen Mia. Very, very interesting discussion. We are speaking on the stay-at-home mom, the decision for that, as opposed to being a full-time working mom. Now, Professor, I did ask you before the break, what drives a woman's decision in making this particular decision, should I say? Should I be full-time or should I be a working mom? What drives this particular decision in a woman?
Yes, and I must tell you, I wanted to say this before. Please call me just Mehreen. I'm just your sister. I'm the title of Mehreen.
You did actually say that before, but sometimes I just, but yes, sure.
No, that's fine. It's fine. But yes, we're just sisters. Okay, so working moms, the thing is that if you are working at the moment, you have to weigh up your pros and cons. What is your bonus of you working and being away from your children or your child or your home? So whether you have a spouse or you don't, whether you're the single mom, whether you have children living with your parents and you're living there, etc., you know what is your space, what is happening with you. But the one thing that I would say to any mom who's working, if you are looking to want to stay at home, some of the pros you can think about is that obviously you're going to have less stress. As much as being at home is a lot of effort, it's not easy. It's a full-time job on its own. It really is. For some mothers who have just their kids and their spouse and their homes to take care of without any aid, there is no time for themselves, and that's what you need to try and teach the stay-at-home moms. You need to make time for you. But if you are a working mom trying to weigh up whether I should stay at home, some of the pluses of staying at home versus your workspace would be that you are not as stressed as you are at work. You obviously, you're not going to miss out on the little milestones of your children and your life at home. You're going to be able to be involved in their lives in every aspect. You're in control of that space completely. You're not reliant on somebody else to take control of you. So you take control of your space, your home, your structure, the time frames, your children, your child's life, the education, etc. So you're the primary teacher there, going back to what we spoke about earlier in education. It is rewarding. When you're watching these things, when you're watching these milestones, when you grow together with your children, that is absolutely rewarding. There is no replacement for that. And then, of course, you get to actually focus on them 100%, which can have a downfall if you forget that you have to focus on you at the same time. But these are just some of the pluses of if you want to leave work and you go home. But remember that even if you are at home and you opt to change from leaving work into going into a home space with your kids, you need to still learn a few things. And one of the key things I say to women, especially when you're leaving the working space into the home space, you need to learn to delegate. Don't take on everything to yourself, because these are children that have to learn independence of mindset at some point. So you need to allow them to play independently and still observe as the teacher would, for example. You need to obviously still keep yourself involved in the working structures of the world, because if you are married, for example, the one thing we see very often is women who depend so much on their spouse. The spouse does everything financially because she is a stay-at-home mom and is dealing with everything, and alhamdulillah, that is beautiful. But once the spouse passes away or something happens, she's left on her own. And because she's not involved so much in that aspect of finances, she's not so much involved in the aspects of payments, she's not involved in the aspects of the working world anymore, she's lost touch. It becomes very difficult for her to try and manage that portion of things again. So try and get more involved in that and stay involved in it somehow. You might not be doing it, you're not earning the income, but be involved in that space so that if there is a need, you do know what is there and what needs to be done. The other thing is you need to also make peace with mess. I read this in an article, that's why I'm quoting these words. Make peace with mess. Because if you are somebody who's perfectionist in everything that you do, in everything that has to be, it has to be in a specific way, space, etc. So if you see me in my office space versus my kids, my child, for example, when she used to be growing up, it was very, very different. I say to people, even though I have 20 books opened, it's my references. Do not touch my books. So it looks like a mess to you, but it's my organized mess. So then I'm saying to you, when you're going into your office can be perfectly spick and span, can have everything to the core, but when you are dealing with your kids at home, you're not going to have that. And they're developing into their own individual streams. So allow for the mess, even though you're allowing for them to grow in it, and teach them in specific methods, not in dictatorial methods. So your method, remember, grew and became you as you became an adult. Based for kids, you have to teach them why this cannot be like this. Show them what the difference is. Do it with them. Clean up with them. So when I say mess, please, I'm not talking about dirty. I'm talking about mess as in they throw their toys around and it's left there. You need to teach them what it is. Pick it up with them a few times. Show them how good it feels, that you're not angry about it. So these are things that you have to learn and when you're changing the spaces about whether you're leaving this working world into the home. But there are benefits, of course, to both of the streams. There are disadvantages to both of the streams. But again, like I said before, when we talk of stay-at-home mom, when we talk of working mom, the common denominator for both is you are still the mom. And that is the role you need to embrace, because that is a gifted role that Allah subhanahu has given unto you, inshallah.
100%. You've actually answered like 4 of my questions with that. Alhamdulillah. Beautiful. and tell me, what kind of support should both women receive to unburden them of these feelings?
Well, the first support is from your people that you are taking care of. So, for example, if you are drawing an income to actually make sure that your family is set, they need to realize the worth of what you are doing, the sacrifices you are making and taking for that to happen, especially if you are a single mom. But how do you do that? You don't throw it at somebody. This is, if it weren't for me, you wouldn't be getting this. That's not what people need to hear, especially a child. A child is your Allah. A child is given unto you from Allah. That child didn't ask to be there. What you are doing to provide for the child is actually what you are meant to be doing for the child up until a specific age, of course. But you don't need to throw that weight at people. So you need to be able to find your balance. You need to be able to find exactly what works for you. But the key for me, I think, I know that you have time constraints, but I think the key for me is that if you are working, please leave work at work and leave home at home. You need to learn this because you cannot involve one into the other. Yes, you can come home and you can speak about your day at work, but you cannot bring the frustration of work back home so that your child doesn't know you as mom. The child doesn't want to talk to you because you're in this bad mood because of what happened at work. So, and you also need to be able to learn what happened at home cannot go into the workspace. So it's a very, very thin line, but it's a line that we have to draw. And you need to be able to learn how to build it, how to draw it, because it's really key. The sad thing that, we see very often is around us, we hardly ever find true sisters, sisters that will help each other, sisters that will build each other. We rather engaging with clique societies out here. So who would actually be there for you? Who's your go-to space if you don't have it at home or you don't have it at work? So we need to actually envelop and be there for our sisters that are finding these difficulties and try and help them to get through it. These children, you find very often children become very close to their guardian as opposed to their parent. And this is where the sadness comes in because the parent then doesn't become the confidant. And you need to change that. Your child needs to be yours. We need to be the go-to space first. Sometimes the guardian is actually the teacher who's not even part of your family. And that's simply because the child is getting the time. The child is getting the attention from that space. So analyze your space so that you are able to actually define what works and what doesn't. Do your pros and cons list. The question you just posed to me engages like a whole workshop of material. But inshallah, I hope I did answer as much as possible.
You absolutely did. We have come to the end of our segment. Jazakallah so much once again. It really has been informative, and I think there's a lot that our listeners can take from this as well. Again, Jazakallah for taking the time to join us today, Sister Mehreen.
Alhamdulillah, it's been an honor and a pleasure. Always lovely to be with Salam Media and to all of you. And Jazakallah khair. Please remember us in your job as well, especially my father. May Allah grant him and Father of Mia Jannah for Fidos and grant all the sick who are around us Shifa. And thank you so much to you and Salam Media as well. Alhamdulillah, it was a blessing to be with you.
Ameen. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
That was Professor Mehreen Mia speaking to us about the stay-at-home mom versus a full-time working mom. Very, very interesting discussion. Don't forget you are able to send us your thoughts on WhatsApp 061 766 0355. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Salam Media on YouTube. The time is 12:02. Quick short break and we'll be back with our community focus segment. Stay tuned.